Welcome to the Think Forward podcast, where we speak with futurists, innovators, and big thinkers. Come along with your host, Steve Fisher, and explore the future together.
Welcome back to Foundations in Foresight, a Think Forward series. Now, I'm Steve Fisher, and today we're tackling a challenge that many organizations and individuals face: how to effectively integrate futures thinking with strategic planning processes. We've spent considerable time in this series exploring powerful foresight concepts, methodologies, and practices. We've discussed how to scan for signals, develop scenarios, and create personal foresight systems. But for many, there remains a persistent gap between foresight activities and the strategic planning processes that drive actual decisions and resource allocation. Today, we're going to bridge that gap. We'll explore practical approaches for embedding foresight into core strategic processes, ensuring that your exploration of future possibilities directly informs and enhances your execution plans. By the end of this episode, you'll have a clear roadmap for connecting futures thinking with strategic planning in ways that enhance both activities rather than keeping them in separate silos. Let's dive in. The challenge: why foresight and strategy often remain disconnected. Before we explore solutions, let's understand why futures thinking and strategic planning frequently remain disconnected in many organizations and for many individuals. First, there's the challenge of different timeframes. Traditional strategic planning typically focuses on 1 to 3 year horizons with clear goals, metrics, and action steps. Futures thinking, by contrast, often explores possibilities 5 to 10 plus years out, dealing with greater uncertainty and more qualitative insights. This temporal mismatch makes integration challenging. How do you connect explorations of distant possibilities with decisions that need to be made now? Second, there's the methodological disconnect. Strategic planning tends to be linear, analytical, and convergent, narrowing options to choose a clear path forward. Foresight work is often nonlinear, intuitive, and divergent, expanding possibilities rather than narrowing them. These different approaches can seem incompatible without a framework for connecting them. Third, there's the challenge of different languages and mindsets. Strategic planning speaks the language of objectives, key results, milestones, and accountability. Futures thinking speaks of signals, scenarios, possibilities, and adaptation. Without translation between these vocabularies, insights from one domain don't easily flow into the other. Finally, there's the organizational reality that foresight and strategy often live in different teams with different reporting structures. Foresight might be housed in innovation, R&D, or a dedicated futures team, while strategy is typically the domain of executive leadership or a strategic planning unit. This structural separation creates silos that impede integration. The good news is that these challenges are solvable. With the right frameworks and practices, futures thinking and strategic planning can become mutually reinforcing rather than disconnected activities. The Three Horizons Bridge, connecting exploration and execution. One of the most powerful frameworks for integrating foresight with strategy is an adapted version of the Three Horizons model. This approach provides a bridge between longer-term futures work and near-term strategic planning. In this model, Horizon 1, H1, represents your current business or operations. What's generating value today? Strategic planning for H1 focuses on extending and optimizing current activities, typically with a 1 to 2 year time frame. Horizon 3, H3, represents transformative future possibilities, emerging opportunities that might become central to your future but aren't yet mature. Futures work in H3 explores possibilities 7 to 10 plus years out, identifying potential disruptions and opportunities on the horizon. Horizon 2, H2, is the critical bridge, initiatives that connect your present to your future. H2, work translates futures insights into concrete ventures, experiments, and capabilities with a 3 to 5 year time frame. The Three Horizons approach integrates futures thinking and strategic planning by creating a continuous spectrum rather than separate activities. Here's how to implement this framework. Start with parallel exploration of H1 and H3. Analyze your current business or activities, H1, while simultaneously exploring distant future possibilities, H3. This creates creative tension between present realities and future aspirations. Identify the transitional opportunities in H2. Based on the gap between your present, H1, and potential futures, H3, what bridges need to be built? What capabilities, experiments, or ventures would help you move toward emerging opportunities while leveraging current strengths? Develop integrated planning across all three horizons. Rather than creating separate strategic and futures plans, develop a portfolio approach that allocates resources across all three horizons. Optimization initiatives, H1, transition projects, H2, and exploration ventures, H3. Create distinct metrics for each horizon. H1 initiatives can be measured by traditional performance metrics. H2 projects might be evaluated by learning and capability development. H3 explorations can be assessed by breadth of possibilities explored and insights generated. This three horizons approach resolves the time frame disconnect by creating a continuous spectrum from present to future. And it bridges methodological differences by using H2 as a translation layer between optimization and exploration. And it integrates different languages by connecting current performance to future possibilities through concrete transition initiatives. Embedding foresight in traditional strategic planning processes. Now, let's get practical about how to integrate futures thinking into specific strategic planning activities that might already exist in your organization or personal practice. Strategic planning cycle integration. Most strategic planning follows an annual or biannual cycle. Here's how to embed foresight at each stage. 1. Environmental scanning and analysis. Traditional strategic planning begins with analyzing the current environment, typically using frameworks like SWOT or STEEP analysis. Enhance this phase by extending the time frame of your environmental scan to capture emerging trends and weak signals beyond immediate market conditions, including insights from your ongoing futures scanning practice. Analyzing not just what is happening now, but what's emerging on the horizon, considering multiple possible futures rather than assuming a single trajectory. For example, a traditional SWOT analysis might identify current strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. A foresight-enhanced SWOT would also consider how strengths might become weaknesses in alternative futures, how emerging signals might represent future opportunities, and how seemingly distant changes could evolve into significant threats. 2. Vision and goal setting. Strategic planning typically includes articulating a vision and setting specific goals. Integrate futures thinking by creating a vision that's informed by multiple scenarios rather than a single prediction. Developing goals that remain relevant across different possible futures. Identifying no-regrets moves that create value regardless of which future emerges. Establishing not just end-state goals but also learning objectives that enhance adaptability. Rather than setting rigid 5-year targets based on a single predicted future, a foresight-informed approach might establish directional aspirations with flexibility about specific metrics and pathways, allowing adaptation as conditions evolve. 3rd, strategy development. The core of strategic planning involves developing strategies to achieve goals. Embed foresight by creating a portfolio of strategic options rather than a single plan, identifying robust strategies that perform well across multiple scenarios, developing contingency approaches for different possible futures, building strategic flexibility that allows for pivots as conditions change. For instance, instead of a linear strategic plan, you might develop a core strategy supplemented by contingency options that can be activated if certain signals or triggers emerge. 4th, resource allocation. Strategic planning drives resource allocation decisions. Integrate futures thinking by allocating resources across all 3 horizons, not just current operations. Setting aside explicit budget for exploration and experimentation. Creating flexibility reserves that can be deployed as new opportunities emerge. Establishing stage gate processes for Horizon 2 and 3 initiatives that allow for learning-based advancement. Many organizations allocate 70% of resources to Horizon 1, 20% to Horizon 2, and 10% to Horizon 3, though these proportions can vary based on your context and the pace of change in your environment. 5. Implementation and monitoring. The final phase of strategic planning involves execution and tracking progress. Enhance this with foresight by monitoring not just performance metrics, but also tracking signals that indicate emerging changes. Establishing regular review points to assess whether underlying assumptions remain valid. Creating learning loops that feed insights from execution back into futures exploration. Maintaining flexibility to adjust implementation as conditions evolve. Traditional implementation focuses on executing the plan as designed. A foresight-enhanced approach maintains the adaptability to modify execution based on emerging realities. Practical integration tools. Beyond the overall planning cycle, here are specific tools that help bridge foresight and strategy. 1. The Strategic Implications Workshop. This facilitated session translates futures insights directly into strategic considerations. After exploring multiple scenarios or future possibilities, gather key decision makers to identify implications for current strategies across different scenarios, assess the robustness of existing plans across multiple futures, generate strategic options that maintain flexibility while moving forward, prioritize actions based on both current priorities and future possibilities. This workshop creates a direct handoff from futures exploration to strategic decision-making, ensuring insights aren't lost in translation. 2. The wind tunneling exercise. This approach helps test strategic options against different future conditions. For each major strategic initiative, assess how it would perform in each scenario you've developed. Identify vulnerabilities or advantages that emerge in different futures. Modify the strategy to enhance its robustness across scenarios. Develop early warning indicators that would suggest a need to pivot. Wind tunneling ensures that strategies aren't optimized for a single predicted future, but remain adaptable across multiple possibilities. 3. The strategic radar. This ongoing monitoring system tracks signals relevant to both current strategy and future possibilities. Establish a shared dashboard that monitors key indicators for current performance, tracks emerging signals that might indicate shifts in the environment, highlights patterns that connect near-term developments to longer-term possibilities, provides an early warning system for potential disruptions. The strategic radar creates a continuous flow of information between present operations and future exploration, keeping both connected rather than separate. 4. The portfolio review board. This governance mechanism ensures balanced attention across all 3 horizons. Create a cross-functional team that reviews resource allocation across near-term, transitional, and exploratory initiatives, ensures appropriate balance based on your context and the pace of change, makes explicit trade-off decisions between short and long-term investments, maintains strategic coherence across different timeframes. This board provides structural integration of futures thinking and strategic planning at the governance level. Case studies, foresight strategy integration in practice. Let's explore how organizations have successfully bridged the gap between futures thinking and strategic planning. Case study 1, the global consumer goods company. A multinational consumer goods company was struggling with the disconnect between their foresight team, which produced insightful but often unused scenarios, and their strategic planning process, which remained largely focused on extending current business models. They implemented 3 key integration mechanisms at the annual Futures Summit. They began each strategic planning cycle with a 2-day session where the Futures team presented emerging signals, trends, and scenarios directly to the executive team. This created a shared foundation of futures awareness before planning began. The Opportunities Portfolio. They established a dedicated process for translating futures insights into concrete business opportunities, with a governance system for moving promising ideas from exploration to experimentation to implementation. The 3 Horizons Dashboard. They created a visual management tool showing resource allocation and progress across all 3 horizons, making the balance visible to all leaders and creating accountability for future-oriented initiatives. The result was a significant shift from treating foresight as an interesting but separate activity to making it the foundation of their strategic conversations. Over 3 years, this integrated approach led to the development of several successful new business models that would have been overlooked in their traditional planning process. Case study 2, the regional healthcare system. A healthcare system recognized that their 5-year strategic planning process was increasingly disconnected from the rapidly changing realities of healthcare delivery. They integrated foresight through the Signals Network. They trained staff across the organization to identify and share early signals of change, creating a distributed scanning system rather than relying solely on executive perspectives. The quarterly Futures Dialogue. They replaced their annual planning retreat with quarterly sessions that alternated between exploring emerging possibilities and translating those insights into near-term strategic adjustments. The Strategic Experiments Fund. They allocated 5% of their operating budget to experiments designed to test elements of possible futures, with a rapid learning and scaling process for successful initiatives. This approach helped them navigate the COVID-19 pandemic with greater agility than many peers, as they had already been exploring scenarios around virtual care, workforce flexibility, and supply chain resilience. What might have been dismissed as interesting but not relevant right now in a traditional planning process had instead been integrated into their strategic thinking, allowing faster adaptation when disruption arrived. Overcoming common integration challenges. Despite the clear benefits of integrating foresight and strategy, most organizations encounter obstacles in implementation. Let's address common challenges and how to overcome them. Challenge 1. Our planning process is too rigid to incorporate futures thinking. Rather than attempting to overhaul your entire planning process at once, look for specific intervention points where futures insights can add value. For example, add a futures perspective to your environmental analysis. Integrate scenario thinking into risk assessment activities. Use futures techniques to enhance innovation and opportunity identification. Create a separate but connected futures track that feeds insights into the main planning process. Start with small modifications that demonstrate value before pushing for broader transformation. Challenge 2. Leadership views futures work as interesting but not practical. Connect futures thinking directly to current strategic priorities and business results by Focusing initial futures work on questions leaders already care about, translating scenarios into specific strategic implications rather than leaving them abstract, using the language of opportunity, risk, and competitive advantage rather than futures terminology, demonstrating how futures insights could have helped avoid past strategic missteps. The key is making futures work relevant to current concerns, not just interesting in its own right. Challenge 3. We don't have dedicated foresight resources or expertise. Integration is possible even without a dedicated foresight function. Consider building futures thinking capacity within existing strategy and planning roles, creating a cross-functional futures council of interested individuals from different departments, starting with simple futures techniques that don't require specialized expertise, using external resources or consultants for specific futures projects while building internal capability. Remember that effective integration often starts small and grows as it demonstrates value. Challenge 4. Different timeframes make integration seem impossible. Bridge the temporal gap through the 3 horizons framework discussed earlier, using backcasting to connect distant futures to present actions, identifying near-term implications of longer-term possibilities, creating transitional strategies that evolve as conditions change. The goal isn't perfection, but rather ensuring that near-term decisions are informed by longer-term awareness. Personal application. Integrating foresight into individual planning. The principles we've discussed apply not just to organizations, but also to personal strategic planning. Here's how individuals can integrate futures thinking into their own planning processes. First, annual life strategy review. Once a year, set aside time for a comprehensive life strategy review that integrates foresight. Include review of signals and trends affecting your profession, interests, and context. Exploration of multiple scenarios for your personal and professional future. Assessment of your current path against different possible futures. Development of a portfolio of goals and initiatives across all 3 horizons. This approach ensures your personal strategy remains connected to broader change rather than assuming stability. Second, quarterly horizon check. Every 3 months, conduct a briefer review that updates your signal tracking with new observations, assesses whether your assumptions about the future remain valid, reviews progress on initiatives across all 3 horizons, makes adjustments to your portfolio based on emerging insights. This regular check maintains the connection between your daily actions and longer-term possibilities. 3. The personal portfolio approach. Rather than creating a single career or life plan, develop a portfolio that includes core activities that generate value and stability now, H1. Development initiatives that build capabilities for emerging opportunities, H2. Exploration activities that help you understand longer-term possibilities, H3. This balanced approach ensures you're not just optimizing for the present or betting everything on a single vision of the future. 4. The decision filter. For significant decisions, create a simple filter that incorporates futures thinking. How does this choice perform across multiple possible futures? Does it create optionality or limit my future possibilities? Am I making this decision based on past patterns or emerging realities? What assumptions about the future am I making, and how confident am I in them? This filter ensures your key choices are futures informed rather than solely based on present circumstances. Next steps. Building your integration approach. As we wrap up today's exploration, let's focus on practical next steps for integrating futures thinking with your strategic planning. Assess your current integration. Reflect on how futures thinking and strategic planning currently connect in your organization or personal practice. Where are the gaps? What integration mechanisms already exist that could be enhanced? Identify one integration point to focus on. Based on your assessment, choose one specific area where better integration would create the most value. This might be environmental scanning, vision development, strategy testing, or another aspect of your planning process. Design a simple integration mechanism. Create a specific practice, tool, or process to strengthen the connection at your chosen integration point. Start small and focused rather than attempting comprehensive transformation. Implement and learn. Put your integration mechanism into practice, paying attention to what works, what doesn't, and how it might be refined. Use this learning to inform your next integration steps. Expand strategically. As you demonstrate value through your initial integration, gradually expand your approach to encompass more aspects of the planning process and involve more stakeholders. Remember, effective integration isn't about perfection. It's about creating valuable connections between futures thinking and strategic planning that enhance both activities. Looking ahead, in our next episode, We'll explore how to design transformation roadmaps, creating clear pathways from your current reality to your preferred futures. We'll discuss how to sequence initiatives, balance short and long-term actions, and navigate the complexity of significant change. Until then, I encourage you to begin integrating futures thinking with your strategic planning processes. The organizations and individuals who thrive in uncertain times aren't those with perfect predictions or rigid plans. They're those who maintain a continuous dialogue between present actions and future possibilities. Thank you for joining me today. Keep connecting, keep integrating, and as always, think forward.
Thanks for listening to the Think Forward podcast. You can find us on all the major podcast platforms and at www.thinkforwardshow.com, as well as on YouTube under Think Forward Show. See you next time.